Season 6 of Limbus Company has finally begun, bringing in the start of a new canto as well as 2 new identities. These identities belong to the Heisho pack, much like the Roshu and Otis that ended up improving Rupture by a lot in Season 5. However, the new Rodion and Gregor belong to the She branch of the Heisho pack. I think that's how it's pronounced. And their kits mix Rupture with Poise, for an interesting yet not unfamiliar combination. The 2 new identities promise to add an alternative option to Rupture, replacing Deviant Rodion and adding a brand new variant of the Deathrite effect to the game. But alongside their strengths, they also have clear weaknesses and opportunity costs, which is why a question arises. Are the Heisho pack She branch identities good, and should you get them? In today's video I aim to answer that question by taking a look at the kits of the new identities and then going over their performance in the Rupture team, while comparing it to that of the classic Deviant Rodion approach. But before we do that, I have to tell you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you want to see comprehensive reviews of all the new identities and ego added in Season 6, consider subscribing. It takes just a second and helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get back to the She branch. We'll start with their kits, and I will be going over both Rodia and Gregor side by side, as their kits have many similarities. Both identities have 200 HP at level 55, a speed range of 3 to 7 and an unmodified defense level. Both IDs also deal slash damage with their skills 1 and 2, while dealing pierce damage with their third. Gregor's Sin Affinity spread consists of Pride, Gluttony and Envy, while Rodia gets Envy, Gluttony and Gloom. Both IDs also have a Gluttony defense. Starting with skill 1, Rodion gets Serpent Glint, which is a 2-coin skill that rolls up to 15 and scales its coin power with both Poise on Rodion and Rupture on the enemy. On use, the skill gives Rodia 2 Poise count. Both coins of the skill inflict 1 Rupture, with the second coin inflicting 2 more Rupture on crit, if Rodia has Serpent Arm. As for Gregor's skill 1, it's pretty much the same, but its second coin inflicts 1 Rupture count on crit instead. It also gets a tiny bit more offense level. Onto skill 2, Rodia gets Snake Fang, which has 3 coins and normally rolls up to 22 power. Once again, its coin power scales with both Poise and Rupture, and winning a clash with the skill gives Rodia 2 Poise count and inflicts 2 Rupture count on the enemy. The first coin inflicts 1 Rupture potency, while the second one inflicts 1 count. The third coin is a bit more interesting though, as it inflicts Deathrite Venom and on crit also gives Rodia 1 Serpent Arm. Additionally, at 30 Poise or higher, the last coin gets reused once, at the cost of 10 Poise. We'll go over the unique effects mentioned in this skill a bit later. Gregor's skill 2 is called Blindsiding Cleave, and it's pretty much the exact same skill, except its second coin inflicts 1 Rupture potency instead of count, and the third coin inflicts 2 extra Rupture as well. Before moving on to the third skills of the new identities, let's take a look at the 2 unique effects that are used by the new Heisho duo, as their strongest skills interact with them in pretty important ways. The first effect is Serpent Arm, which is the unique buff of the She branch. This effect stacks up to 3 and grants an ally 3 Poise potency and 2 count at the end of a turn, in a similar way to Nebulizer. Additionally, when using a base attack skill against an enemy with Rupture, the effect gives 5 more Poise potency, accelerating the Poise gain of the new identities by a lot. At the end of a turn, Serpent Arm loses 1 stack. The second unique effect of the newest IDs is Deathrite Venom, an effect that's similar to Deathrite Haste. This effect has a base stack of 5, and loses 1 stack whenever Rupture on the enemy with Deathrite is triggered by a critical strike. Whenever a stack is lost, the enemy is also inflicted with either 1 offense level down or 1 defense level down, up to 3 times per turn. Whenever the stack drops to 0, the enemy takes gluttony damage equal to its Rupture stack. And, of course, as long as Deathrite Venom is inflicted on an enemy, no additional stacks of it can be applied, until the current one has entirely expired. Now, armed with this knowledge, we can go in and look at the third skills of Rodya and Gregor. Rodion's skill 3 is Serpent's Mortal Flurry, a 3-coin skill that rolls up to 26 in a clash. The skill has 3 attack weight and unfocused volley, meaning that if you're fighting more than 1 enemy, the coins of the skill will randomly hit the enemies targeted by the skill's weight 1 by 1, instead of all at once. Much like every other skill we have covered, Rodya's skill 3 gets more coin power based on Poise and Rupture at the same time. The skill also gets clash power equal to Serpent Arm on Rodion, while giving her 3 stacks of that effect. On Clash Win, Serpent's Mortal Flurry inflicts 1 Rupture count against all enemies that it targets. The first 2 coins of the skill give Rodion 2 Poise potency and count. However, the third one is much more interesting, as it inflicts 1 Rupture count, reduces Deathrite Venom on target by 1 on crit, and gets reused on crit as well, up to 2 times per skill. This makes Serpent's Mortal Flurry a skill with an insane damage ceiling, as it combines Rupture procs, Poise crits and coin reuses into one skill, to make quite a formidable bomb. Although Unfocused Volley does make it a bit more difficult to use. But more on that later. Gregor's skill 3 is Serpent Shear Puncturing Arm, and surprisingly it's very different from Rodion's skill 3. This skill only has 1 coin, and rolls up to 28 with all conditions met. It once again gets more coin power from Poise and Rupture, but the amount of power the skill can get is much greater than usual. On use, Gregor also gets 3 stacks of Serpent Arm, and on Clash Win, if the enemy has 5 or more Rupture, Gregor gets 5 Poise as well. The skill's one and only coin does a lot of things. First of all, it deals more damage based on Poise on Gregor and Rupture on the enemy, up to 200% extra damage. If Gregor has Serpent Arm, which he always has because the skill literally gives it to him, the coin also deals 100% more damage on crit. On hit, the target's Deathrite Venom is decreased by 2, and critting with the skill decreases the effect by 3 more stacks. 2 Rupture count is also inflicted on critical strike, and after all of that, Puncturing Arm's only coin inflicts a new stack of Deathrite Venom. This skill is also quite powerful, although not as incredible as Rodya's skill 3. It's nice that the skill is count positive, while also dealing a huge amount of damage and eating up an entire stack of Deathrite Venom, and then replacing it. But it only having 1 coin makes it perform worse than even Gregor's own skill 2 if the enemy is inflicted with a strong Rupture stack. As for defensive skills, both Rodya and Gregor get the exact same skill. Reversal Kick is a new clashable guard, which grants our new identities 3 stacks of Serpent Arm at combat start, and gets slightly stronger at 10 Poise count. In terms of passives, the She branch identities are similar to the Mao branch, as they have simple effects that are just good. Rodion gets to deal more damage when her unique effects are up, and Gregor does the same thing, but requires both effects to be present for a potentially larger payoff. Also, Gregor gets pierce damage up when reducing an enemy's death rate Venom stack to 0. As for their support passives, Rodion allows the fastest ally to inflict one offense and defense level down on an enemy when proccing Rupture for the first time in a turn, while Gregor gets a bit of a unique effect, as it only activates after his death, and grants the identity that subs in for him 2 poise every turn. Now that we're done with the kits of the newest identities, it's about time we started talking about their performance in Rupture. And the first thing that needs to be brought up is their health. Both Rodia and Gregor only have 200 HP at level 55, meaning that she Rodia will not easily take talisman priority like Deviat Rodia does, and Gregor is no different. This means that running both of these identities, or at least Rodia, comes with the added cost of having to give up Rupture's simplest turn 1 setup with Deviat Rodion's skill 3, which can instantly turn players away from the newest branch. However, I am here to tell you that Deviat Rodion is not the only option you have when it comes to using Talisman, meaning that you can use an alternative approach to jumpstarting a Rupture stack while keeping She Rodion in your team. But before we get to that, what do the 2 new units bring into Rupture? Well, their skills are mostly count negative, so they aren't going to be your safe count stacking options. Instead, the She branch identities provide a lot of coins, or at least Rodia does, and a great deal of physical damage, with both IDs reaching their max potential after a brief period of setting up. Speaking of their setup, Poise and Rupture seem to have completely opposite philosophies when it comes to speed, as Poise IDs need to set up first, before they can reach their full power and snowball any encounter, while Rupture's best case scenario usually includes some kind of crazy 50 Rupture stack on turn 1, making the team perfect for low turn clears of bosses. Combining the two would work pretty poorly on paper, however, the She branch units get an insane amount of poise every time they attack an enemy with Rupture while they have Serpent Arm, allowing them to set up very quickly. Usually at around turn 5, Rodia and Gregor reach 20 poise, allowing them to effectively utilize all of their on-crit effects. Now, to be fair, the vast majority of bosses currently present in Limbus Company die to Rupture in 4 turns or less, so even a 5-turn setup isn't exactly perfect. But you still get the option of using the skills of the new identities at less than 20 poise, risking a low roll in order to get value faster. Also, with really healthy bosses, such as the final encounter of Canto 7, and probably most bosses that we'll see in the future, this isn't a problem, as they have enough HP to withstand your Rupture onslaught for a couple more turns, allowing you to hit some crazy skill 3s. But while it's nice that their setup isn't exactly slow, the fact that Rodia and Gregor get most of their value from physical damage might be a bit alarming to some players. After all, the IDs belong to the Rupture archetype, which is notorious for not caring about the damage of its units, as the Rupture effect is incredibly efficient at taking out large threats. Now, in Gregor's case, that's a valid concern, as he has worse coinage than that of Cinq Merceaux and also goes negative on all skills except his third, while Merceau is fully neutral after 15-3. Additionally, Gregor's damage output isn't actually that impressive, meaning he doesn't really make up for his lack of Rupture synergy with raw numbers, unless he hits a staggered enemy with a max roll skill 3 at the right time. As for Rodya, her situation isn't as bad. Her skill 2 actually goes neutral on Clash Win until she gets to 30 poise, and the potential for a double reroll on her skill 3 actually gives her better coinage than that of Cinq Merceaux. By the way, I'm not trying to replace him, he's just a convenient unit to compare the new IDs to. This makes Rodya the stronger ID of the two in my eyes, as she can dish out her signature insane damage without putting too much strain on the Rupture stack. But of course, using She Rodion requires you to give up Devyat, and this is where we come back to those alternative ways to set up Talisman. The team I tested the new identities in consists of the Mao duo, the She duo, LCE Yi Sang, and Lantern Don Quixote. As you could have guessed, the talisman holder for this composition is Dawn, with her high amount of HP. While usually you would want to get a Devyat Rodya skill 3 in order to set up a chain for talisman, with Dawn as the holder you will need a different setup. You want LCE Yi Sang to use his second skill to lose a clash, and hit back for 4 Rupture count on the enemy. After that, Dawn can use her second or third skill with Talisman to inflict up to 30 Rupture potency on the first turn, creating a large stack. Also, due to the fact that Talisman's Rupture potency applies before Rupture count, you can also get away with Dawn using her third skill first, and Yi Sang going for his skill 2 after that, as Dawn will leave a stack with 2 Rupture count. Of course, neither skill has Gluttony, so the 4 Resonance has to come from an outside source. Luckily, all the Heisho Pack identities want to use their Gluttony defenses on turn 1 anyways, making a 4 skill Gluttony Resonance chain guaranteed. With such a setup, you can get a large Rupture stack as early as turn 1, and also instantly get all Heisho Pack identities online with their unique buffs. This setup might seem more difficult to get than just Rodion's skill 3, but if Oiprox's math is to be trusted, it's actually pretty much the exact same probability, meaning that if you were rerolling for Devyat before this, you can keep rerolling for this setup and get similar results. Such an approach opens up Rodya's slot and allows you to take She Rodion, who gets stronger over time and excels in extended encounters, instead of Devyat, who either dies or runs away if the fight starts taking a bit too long. However, while the team gets stronger in long fights with the new units, it actually doesn't suffer at all in shorter ones, showing comparable efficiency to the usual approach when used against Barbar, who's my favorite punching bag for testing Rupture. So even though it might be difficult to let go of a very strong Rupture ID in Devyat Rodion, who has been a core member of the Rupture composition ever since her release, I think that the new She Rodion might actually be a better choice for a wide array of encounters, as Devyat has her main weakness of not being able to fight in encounters that don't end instantly, while she very much does not have that kind of issue. Gregor's fate, on the other hand, isn't as optimistic. I think he's a strong identity overall, and can be used outside of Rupture and still see great success. But in Rupture, having both him and Rodya really makes it difficult to keep up the Rupture stack well, as even in my Barbar recordings you can see me drop the stack multiple times, because I was trying to maximize the poise gain of the new identities by using their attack skills instead of going AFK with their guards. Speaking of their guards, let me quickly mention that while the counters that Mao branch IDs got are absolutely incredible defensive skills for Rupture, the guards of the She branch are definitely worse. They have lower base power, meaning that a low roll will instantly result in a clash loss and damage taken, although part of it is mitigated. The coin power conditional almost never comes into play, so using the skill mid-fight for a Serpent Arm Reducer won't even give you a 14 power skill to work with. And the free count neutral hit of the Mao counters is nowhere to be seen, as reversal kick is a guard, so it doesn't actually hit back. And while I'm comparing the new IDs to the Mao branch, I also have to mention that Deathrite Venom is just miles worse than Deathrite Haste. As, who even cares about offense and defense level down, especially in such a low amount? Still, the effect does retain the extra damage from going to 0, so it's not entirely useless, just worse than the Deathrite we already had. Although if Bad End Honglu ends up being some kind of Deathrite capstone, the effect might actually get better. But this is purely speculation at this point. Before going to the final verdict, I want to highlight one more interaction. Of course, I'm talking about AEDD Gregor into Roja's skill 3, which makes Serpent's Mortal Flurry go extremely positive in count, eliminating its only weakness. The combo is pretty great if you can pull it off, but as you could imagine, you don't get to use it too often. But realistically, if you are running both new identities at the same time, this interaction is a big part of why you do it. And now that I've said what I wanted about the new IDs, how should you use them? Well, I think it's wise to only put one of the new units on the field, as having both can have a negative impact on the Rupture stack, forcing you to either drop the stack entirely, which is a cardinal sin in this archetype, or start guarding more often, lowering the damage output and poise gain of the new identities, which pretty much neuters their best abilities. Rodia is most definitely the stronger ID of the two, but not by a landslide. If you are a player looking to build a Rupture team from scratch, getting She Rodia will be great for you. However, due to the fact that LCE Yisang is currently indispensable, Deviat might still be the better option. As for Gregor, he can fill the role of a 6 or 7 slot identity for your team, simply proccing Rupture with his skills 1 and 2 and dealing good damage with his skill 3. He is fairly risky to run if you already have other count negative units on your team, but if you want to, you can swap them out for count positive or neutral units to leave some count for Gregor. Is this optimal? Probably not. I think there are better options out there already, but Gregor definitely isn't bad. And with the advent of 7 Sinner fights, you might just have a slot left over for him anyways. So should you get the new IDs? I think yes, but maybe hold off for a couple of weeks to see the rest of the new content. A theory I have is that Gregor is fine now, but might instantly get power crept in a couple of weeks, as Rupture gets more really strong IDs and his drawbacks start outweighing his strength. As for Rodia, she's just very good. If you don't mind replacing Deviat, going for She is something I would recommend, but if you already have Deviat and lack resources, it may be advisable that you save up and don't shard another Rodia, especially now that a team needs 7 Sinners instead of 6. With this, my review of the Heisho Pack She branch identities comes to an end. They're strong and interesting, and can be used both in and outside of the Rupture team. They have to contest other identities for a spot on their preferred team, however, and the competition will only become more fierce as time goes on, So I wouldn't be surprised if Rodya, and especially Gregor, are considered subpar after other Season 6 identities drop. As always, if you disagree or have something to add, leave a comment down below, and I will make sure to read all of them. If you enjoyed the video at any point, consider subscribing to see more like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!